Hey guys, welcome to today's animal card reading, animal spirit totem medicine energy card reading. I'm trying to do these weekly to share with you guys. Trying to do them every Wednesday, but might be a little day or two behind. But I wanted to share this with you guys, so thank you so much for tuning in. All of my videos that I make on YouTube or wherever I make them are made with the intention of assisting and raising the vibration on Mother Earth, with one another, and awareness about this ascension journey, because we're all in this together and we are all experiencing different things, but these card readings are for the collective. Although oftentimes I'll do light language or card reading or something about what's going on with the energies, and you might be feeling it on a personal level, of course, because the collective is really, all of us, but it's a reflection of what's going on individually together, right? So these are for the collective, but you might find some similarities going on in your life as well, because of course, as I learn when I do these card readings and what my guidance team shares with me, everything is connected. And so oftentimes an animal represents a lot more, as you can see from this reading, than just what that one meaning is. So I'm tying this all together. I'll try to go into a little bit more detail at the end so you can just kind of stop it. And then if you want, you've only got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long, and then come back and get into a little more depth at the end. So let's get started. So one of the things that I did when there was a lot going on. So it's a longer reading than some. And the first two cards that I pulled, the question I asked was, what are we missing as a collective? What are the energies that are going on that we just maybe aren't seeing, feeling, hearing, understanding? And it was ironic because I not only pulled these cards, but they were upside down, which represents that we're missing something. Sometimes, not always. It's not a bad thing. It just is. It's just a reminder that these cards are not in balance right now. And so the two cards that I pulled were Armadillo and Whale. Now I'm going to start with Armadillo. And of course, what comes to mind when we think of an armadillo, they're these cute little animals. They've got their shell and they seem like they're solitary. But there's a lot more, of course, that has to do with armadillo energy. So the words that came to mind, and you guys, I'm using Jamie Sam's animal cards, medicine animal deck. And I'm also using Cinnamon Crow's chakra card reading deck in case you guys want to look into getting some on your own. They're fun to use and you'll get different things based on, I always see an underlying connection with what's going on with the planets as well. So that's why I pulled the chakra card readings. But the armadillo represents, of course, boundaries, and it represents a lot more than just boundaries, and protection, boundaries, but also they represent detachment and objectivity. So when I think of detachment with objectivity, I think of being a compassionate witness, right? So you can pull yourself out of a situation, look on it with compassion, and not get sucked into, we'll say, the drama of the situation, not get sucked into everyone else's, the collective's emotions on a situation. Which leads me to what also it says is find out what's hidden. Getting to the root of the problem. And I say problem, we'll say issue, situation, energy, emotion, whatever it might be. What is the cause of the emotion? And I also like using, my friend Kat says, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Does this belong to me? Or does this belong to the collective? And I'm just kind of feeling it, and I'm feeling angry because everybody else is feeling angry, So there's a lot of things going on in the collective right now. I'll get to that at the end. So it also had to do with bone and cartilage, which I'll get to later as well. But also peace and empathy and emotions. Emotions have to do with water. Even though an armadillo digs into the earth, so it also represents earth. Because they have to do with emotions, it also has to do with water. And as you guys know, if you've watched the other videos I did, there was a lot going on with water and earth over the last few months. Even though we're coming into Libra, which is air, and I'll get to that in a moment. And so, in a nutshell, what are we missing? Still not maybe putting up our boundaries. And it doesn't necessarily mean putting up a wall. It just means saying, I do not allow this. This is not something I stand for. But also coming from this space of protection and not being angry about it. If you are angry, or if you are feeling fearful, or if you are feeling judgment, or any of these things, allowing yourself to feel that, so cancel, clear, delete, not feeling it, but admitting that you're feeling that emotion. Digging out, why am I feeling this emotion? Not, I'm angry because of X, Y, and Z. Is that really what's going on? So it's getting to the heart of the matter. And we all know, we've all gotten drawn into drama, whether it be family, friends, again, what's going on out in the world. And so we're being asked to, we're missing as a collective that ability. We're missing, we have the ability, but we're missing that objectivity is basically the root to this. We're still missing that setting boundaries. And I also want to clarify that with boundaries, it's not just about setting your own boundaries. It's also about other people. There's other people in the collective that are not, they're going out of their boundaries. So for example, let's say you set your boundaries and you say, no, I don't, this is not something I allow in my household. This is not something I allow in my personal space. I don't allow this energy into my matrix field, we'll say. But then your neighbor comes over all the time and just walks into your house. That's an example of them not respecting your boundaries. It also is an example of you not putting your foot down and saying, I'm sorry, this is my family time right now. I'm going to have to ask you to leave and come back later when it's appropriate for me, right? But also that neighbor is an example of a lot of people out there are overstepping their boundaries. They are not, so you can have someone who has too many boundaries and someone who doesn't have enough. So we're finding that that's an imbalance, right? And that's why this card was upside down in the collective. And so people are missing, not only are we using that neighbor as an example saying no, but if you're that nosy neighbor, or if you're that person who assumes that it's okay to do this, that, or the other, we're being asked to come back as a compassionate witness and say, is this appropriate? Is this statement that I'm making about this person appropriate? Is this something that I should be feeding into? I mean, I could go on and use examples, but I think you get my point. And it's also about finding what's hidden and getting to the root of the emotion. So what's on the surface may not be, again, this is what we're missing. We're missing really what's under and what the root of the problem is. So we're being asked to kind of dig out, dig a little deeper, and don't just look at the surface value of things. Peace and empathy, having peace, being compassionate, and again, digging out those emotions, admitting that they're there, and digging them out, bringing them to the surface so that they can be let go, or moved forward, or integrated, as I like to say. Whale was the other card that was pulled in relationship to Armadillo, which is also water, okay, having to do with emotions. I think a lot of you guys can agree that there's a lot of stuff going on in the collective emotionally right now. And so this is, again, reference to what maybe we might be missing as a collective. And that whale is listening to your inner guidance, finding the truth, using that truth to speak your truth, but also listening and hearing the truth. So there's lots of layers here, guys. Also, they have to do with the Akashic records, and I'm going to go a little deeper on that at the end, and biorhythm. So just in a nutshell, tying those two together, listening to the inner voice. What we're missing is there's something else that's hidden below the surface that we are not seeing. There's an underlying factor that we are not, what is it, if for those of you who have ears to hear, our ears are coming online, we're waking up, we're remembering who we are, but yet we're not listening to that. We're still, some of us as a collective, and of course I'm not speaking necessarily to you as an individual, but we all go through this, where your guidance system tells you to go, your sonar tells you to go here, yet you decide to go the other direction because of habit patterns, right? And so a lot of this is the old habits die hard. Obviously I referenced that into another video, but we are having access to more memories. As these memories come online, we are being asked to listen to our inner knowing. And so for so long, many people have relied on outside sources to believe what their reality existed of. And in this now moment, we're missing. That's something that we're missing. We've been missing. And now we're saying, all right, Spirit's saying, we're talking to you. Source is talking to us. Listen. So also, when you find that truth, speak the truth. Don't just speak something that you think someone else wants to hear, right? We've all been guilty of that, myself included. But speaking from your heart, but also speaking from that compassionate witness with your boundaries. So one example of that would be you've got someone who doesn't understand their boundaries and they're telling you all of their issues all of the time. Guys, everybody has moments like that, all right? Not everybody, but oftentimes people have those moments. They might be going through a lot. But if you have that experience of working with someone or a family member or a friend or listening to someone on social media, I could go on and on, that is constantly, I call it energy vomit, right? Kind of gross, but it's true. They're just spewing what's wrong with the world, telling all of their issues in minute detail all of the time. That is your responsibility, my responsibility to put up our boundaries and either A, how can we do that? Don't feed into it, okay? Love and light, guys, love and light. Not that everything is sunshine and rainbows all the time, but seeing the positive. There are some people who are so sucked into this matrix that they can't see or they're not hearing their inner guidance system. And so light workers out there, that's what we're here to do, is help people recognize their own sonar, guide into their own guidance system and connect to that so that they can, instead of speaking from a place of victim, speaking from a place of duality, speaking from a place of emotion, right? That's okay to speak your emotion, but again, is that all that you're doing is emotion, emotion, emotion? Well, where is that coming from? Where does that root from really? It could stem from inner child. You know, it could stem from past life. It could stem from an unresolved, relationship issue. I could go on and on. But essentially, people are finding their voice and they're not going within to truly speak with their truth. As a collective, what I'm seeing is people are getting sucked into the drama of stuff and they're just feeding it. Yeah, this, that. When in reality, is that really your truth? Do you really feel that way? Right? Or do you just feel empathetic with that person and you want to say something to make them feel better? Bottom line is, it's their responsibility to make themselves feel better. We are here to hold a vibration to assist them that when they're around us, recognizing who they really are and recognizing that they're not the victim. They're not, in politics, right? We are the voice, yes, but where is that coming from? Again, what are we feeding into? And that's kind of all in all what's kind of missing right now is people are overstepping their boundaries. They're still not setting their boundaries. They're allowing all this stuff, this energy to attach to them, and then it muddles what the emotions, are really going on underneath the surface and where they're stemming from. I'll come back to record keeping or Akashic record in just a moment. So the question was, well, what should we be focusing on? Obviously all of those things, but really what should our focus be? And the card that I pulled was Squirrel. Ironically, it was upside down as well. And so again, we might be missing this as a collective. We're not focusing on it. Squirrel, gather your energy. So what does a squirrel do? It runs around, it takes the nuts out of the pine cones, and also representative of pine cone, which I'll come back to that in a moment. They run around and they play while they're gathering all of their nuts for the winter, we'll say. But they bury them, right? So they dig them up later and they forget where they put many of like a percentage of the nuts that they bury. So the lesson is, don't forget where our energy is going, where we stored this, where we stored that. Memories are coming up to be surfacing to be integrated. Feelings and emotions are coming up to be integrated. But this is also representative of literally. Are we kind of running around from place to place to place and are we scattered, I guess is the right word. So being that this card was upside down, that's kind of what this is telling us from the perspective of my guidance system, which is saying, listen, we're scattering our energies into all these places. And I understand it. It's sometimes when let's say you are a mother and you've got, a business that you're running. And let's say, you have to do this, that, and the other thing. It really takes, now is the time to come back within, set your boundaries, Don't scatter your energy everywhere so you don't forget where you put half of your, put your keys. Don't forget half of the stuff that you thought you accomplished on your list and you go back and go, oh, I didn't even do this. But also be playful about it, right? I know that's kind of a challenge, but we're not being playful enough about this. So it's about having fun with it. And yeah, okay, I screwed up. I did this, I did that. I'm okay. I forgive myself. Let's regroup. Let me gather my energy. Do a 5-minute meditation. Take 5. 5 counts of breath in, 5 counts out 5 times, right? Reset your button. Gather that energy so that when you go forward, you have focus, you have an intention, you have a purpose, and you know what you're working towards. And if you don't know what you're working towards, it's okay. Trust, which is another word, I didn't write it down a lot, but that came up a lot in this. Trust that you are being guided. Listen to your inner guidance system. When we are scattered in all of our energies and we're running around doing all this stuff, we cannot hear our inner voice because we're in that space of listening to everybody else. We're listening to everybody else's issues. We're listening to everybody else's opinions. And really that creates a scattering of energy. And it's, I see it as holes in our energy field. We're spouting out these little energies and it's getting fed into other areas from the view of a matrix field, okay? So you want to set that shell up so that you're not leaking energy out of your auric field or out of your body, right? Again, foods, are you eating the proper foods? Are you nourishing yourself? So this is a little bit about self, higher self, your guidance system, going within, gathering that energy. And also it says it was about adapting to change. So are we adapting? Changes are here. They are happening. Are we adapting to the changes in our bodies or are we freaking out and wasting energy that way? Are we nourishing our body, right? And prepare but be playful about it. So try to be a little lighthearted. Try to take time to just do one thing a day that just is saying, okay, this is for me. I'm just going to do something that makes me happy today. Because if you're focusing again on everybody else and you're not nourishing your higher self, your soul, nourishing your heart, nourishing what brings you joy, then how are you able to give 100%? You can't, because there's always that percentage that's missing that, again, is leaking energy someplace that is not necessary. Somebody else is benefiting from that. Maybe you're not. Last but not least was the overall energy was Weasel. Weasel, which is always an interesting card. Weasels mean a lot of really cool things, and I just want to share. I'm going to share this one site really quick, which I really liked. It's Mara Gamiel, Gamiel blog. So, I have the Medicine Animal card book, which I like to look at, but she talks about, makes some references to Weasel and Christianity. And so I thought this was really interesting. I would suggest you guys maybe go and watch it. I'll try to provide this or read it. I'll try to provide the link. But it says, weasels aren't cowards. And they are bold and confident. It talks about, of course, tenacious, which was the word that I was thinking that came to play. But they observe and they listen. Now, there's a lot interesting stuff on here. It talks about different symbols such as Christ's resurrection, symbology. You guys, I'm not talking about this on a religious level. Christ energy is also referred to as a 5th dimensional energy. So again, a lot of the stuff that I share with you guys are a play on words, and they're multi-layered meanings. They're not just Jesus Christ. They are frequencies, right? Which have to do, again, with whale. And I'll get to that at the end of this video. So I thought that was interesting because a lot of this has to do with rebirth, digging out the old so that it can be integrated and rebirthed into something new. Water, purification, cleansing. And that's really what's going on. As you guys see in our collective, there is a cleansing going on, but there's got to be stuff that's rooted out first. You got to get to the heart of the issue, not just the issue itself. Where did this stem from? Where did it start? Get that out. And then, there's other things that we're not seeing that are behind the scenes. So again, this is like such a common denominator, right? Observe and listen with peace and empathy, detachment and objectivity. It's the same thing. It's observation. Weasels, they weasel out. They go in, they used to use them, their reference to going in to see what the enemy is doing, right? The Native Americans talk about seeing what the enemy does, and then the weasel reports back and says, here's what the enemy is doing. They get behind the scenes, right? And you can't do that if you're talking all the time and you're not listening, right? Or if you're feeding into noise. You got to come into the stealth, right? Weasel represents being stealth-like, and nothing can be hidden from a weasel. So I had that reference to disclosure. And again, this has to do with the overall energy that we're feeling. Lots of stuff is coming to the surface, guys, and it will ferret itself out, weasel ferret, but this is all happening, but we are being invited as a collective to be a keen observer in it. Let it play itself out without feeding our own energy into it. Focus on what we need to focus on as an individual. When you focus on you, you are then able to focus more on the people around you that you love, because you can come from a place of Christed energies, and I'm using again that as a reference as fifth dimensional, right? Love. Okay, that's really what it represents. The Christ, K-R-Y-S-T, or think of crystalline frequencies, plasma frequencies. This is all a play on words. And as we focus on these higher vibrational energies, allowing that to be our teacher, okay, from observation, from empathy and unattachment. Again, the compassionate witness. Okay, so I'm having lots of references here. This is what's going on. Lots of stuff is under the surface and it's being ferreted out. We are seeing it. We're being asked to come from an objective place. And again, it's talking about, all of this talks about slowing down, gathering your energy before you take action. And the energy card cards that I pulled were, again, back to what are we missing? It was listen for guidance, ear chakra. So ear chakra, listen for guidance. And I found this interesting because all of these cards, of course, are in reference to listening, inner ear. So our ears, a lot of you guys on the ascension symptoms may be having a lot of ringing in the ears, ear trouble right now, lots of popping in the ears. That's a whole other ball of wax. Wow, really cheesy, Carrie, but that's a whole other video. But what I want to share is that there are different chakras that come online at different points for all of us, that open, so to speak. And we are having a major awakening with our ears, right? Our ears, our heart, our triad, our eyes, ears, nose, and throat, right? So that's, again, another video. I want to try to keep this one under 25 minutes. And then the last but not least was analyzing. So we're talking about, we're being asked Virgo. Well, we just came out of Virgo, but there's an underlying factor, and both of them have to do with Mercury. So ironically, and of course I'm not an astrologist or astrologer, but astrology is not something that I'm studied in. However, whenever I do these cards, I always see an underlying factor of what's going on with the energies, and Mercury is coming up a lot. So interestingly enough, I took a peek, and there's one website that I really enjoy looking at from time to time called Cafe Astrology. You guys might be familiar with it. And I just for synchronistic purposes, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute because synchronicity is also coming up. So Mercury is in Libra, it says, from September 21st to October 9th. Well, here we go. Today's the 4th. And when Mercury is in Libra, we are diplomatic and friendly. But it's talking about to get to the situation. It says it's an attempt to see both sides of any given situation. And it says we may too easily accommodate others' opinions in order to keep the peace. So again, it's that speaking the truth, setting your boundaries, but also considering their point of view. So I won't read through all of that, but that's kind of what I saw as that was why Mercury was coming up. And interestingly enough, both of these cards had to do with Mercury, and Mercury is in Libra. So again, think of what Libra represents. It's the scales. It's balance. So here we are. We're being asked to come from that space of keen observation, listen to what's going on. And again, I talked about this in previous videos, but feel our emotions. Feel what's going on rather than just spouting off. And I say this with love because we all have anger and we get mad and we are allowed to let that out. But the other thought process is, okay, well, if we're yelling all the time, we're not listening and we're not really hearing what's going on, not only with our bodies, but with what's going on with our ascension process and with what we are being shared with, what information is being shared with us, excuse me. So we're receiving disclosure, but there's more than meets the eye. And I'm going to come to that in just a moment because ear chakra also has to do with the eye, the third eye, because, you know, eyes, ears, and throat. So speaking the truth, of course, that triad, listening for inner guidance. Remember that see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And that means a lot. But it also means that what we're seeing is we're being asked to come from a place of non-judgment and not label it as evil. I don't see evil. I don't hear evil. I don't speak evil. I'm saying that I'm not saying I don't ever do that. I'm just saying that that's what we're being invited to kind of look at and say, okay, what is this underlying emotion, right? What does that represent? Evil, okay, that represents hate. Okay, well, that comes from fear, right? So that underlying emotion is fear. What are we afraid of? So I'm just using these as examples to kind of, again, dig out the underlying and then bring them to the surface so that those can be solved. They can be solved. This has to do with spiritual guidance. One of the mantras that was in the card book was, I hear divine guidance easily and effortlessly. And of course, again, reference to the eye here. So both of these cards have reference to the ears and the eye, the third eye, intuition. And also the sacral chakra, which is emotions. And again, that has to do with water and earth. Also, the last but not least was organize. Again, that has a lot to do with squirrel, getting organized. Analyze before taking action. That has to do with squirrel, right? That's our focus. That's our overall energy. Also, acknowledging the feelings. A lot of people can be in denial of what they're feeling, right? Or being too critical of what they're feeling. How often have we I shouldn't feel this way, or it's stupid, but, you know, I'm saying these disempowering words, right? Why shouldn't we feel that way? We can feel any way we want. Acknowledge that we're having that feeling. But once we acknowledge that we have that feeling, sometimes that's all we need to do in order to integrate it and go, wow, I feel better. I don't need to necessarily disempower someone else by telling them that they shouldn't feel this way because we have a difference of opinions. So again, it's coming from Libra, those scales of non-judgment and being neutral, having empathy, peaceful, compassionate witness, and just kind of allowing things to play out a little bit before getting involved. Not to say that we shouldn't take action. Virgo is about taking action, but it's about analyzing the situation first. And guys, it's all about the heart. If we can feel from the heart where we're at, then we're able to listen with non-judgment, because many people are hearing one thing, but that's not really what's going on. Again, so what we're being told, right? Think of that. I'm having reference to sonar on a whale. So you guys, that might be enough for you. If so, in love and light, I'm going to go a little deeper into this now without doing a separate video. So this is part 2 of the video. So I was kind of talking about how the sonar. So if you think of sonar, you know, it's the whales put out this energy and it's bouncing, you know, bouncing off of the objects in front of it. So again, if you're bouncing things off of people and they're bouncing something back to you and you don't like it, that's okay for you to feel that way, but recognize that that's not something that you want to be a part of in your frequency and maybe come to a different vibration, a different space? What are you allowing into your frequency? Who are you bouncing ideas off of? If you're having a conversation with someone and you know that that person is not in alignment with your values or what you feel strongly about, again, being that compassionate witness and recognizing that within yourself will then help you honor that person and make, that's a boundary. Am I going to cross that boundary and tell them that they're stupid for feeling the way that they feel? Well, then that's old energy, and that brings your vibration down, which many of us know that's common sense, but sometimes it's easier said than done, right? Especially if we feel passionate about something. That, again, doesn't mean we can't stand by our beliefs and what we feel is right, but it's about those, boundaries and what we're allowing into our own space. Okay, I wanted to last but not least talk about the record keeper, Akashic Records, the whales, and everything else. So I found this really amazing site, which I hadn't discovered was even here, and it's wildgratitude.com, and I will be looking at this site from time to time. But what happens is when I read these cards, I look back and I go, okay, obviously we see an underlying theme here. So the underlying theme is that we're getting guidance, right? We're not listening for it because we're so over, I'm going to say not necessarily overwhelmed, but we're being bombarded right now by everybody else's stuff, okay? But we're also being bombarded on many levels and many layers. And so I'm going to go a little deeper down the rabbit hole here. And so we'll talk a little bit about ascension. So we're waking up, right, as a collective. Many of us are. Most of us are. And this is an energy that can be felt through the masses. And some of those people who are really ingrained in 3D, lower density vibrations, don't understand what's happening. And it's causing them to feel even more emotional and to feel more scattered. Okay, but then there's those people out there that are empaths, which we're all empaths, and I don't even necessarily like to use that word, but I use it because many people can relate to it. And we're empathic in the sense that we feel, okay, others' emotions, or we care, okay, about what other people are experiencing. But again, that's an outside. So some of us are getting pulled into that, in other words. And when we do that, we are not able to hear, okay, what's really going on, and hence feel what's really going on. So I'm using this as an example. Oftentimes I'll be listening to the news while I'm doing dishes, or my husband's watching the news and I'm doing dishes or whatever. And I can hear in my heart or my stomach what they're saying from I get angry sometimes too, of course, and it does trigger certain emotions within me. But what I'm sharing is that I can hear whether they're telling the truth or not oftentimes. And that's something that many of us are developing, but we don't realize that we're necessarily developing it. And so that's why oftentimes you'll watch something, you'll go, that just doesn't resonate with me, because it's not true for you. It's not true for you. So that is a gift that we all have, and we're waking up to it. So I'm waking up to this. And when it first started happening, I thought, that's really just doesn't feel right. Yes, it's because it's not accurate. Some of it is, some of it isn't. But my point is, you'll be able, as a collective, this is what's coming online. Our ears are opening. So, but we're so honed in on the distractions that we're not able to hear our inner guidance system. So again, we're asking for guidance, but are we really hearing what we're receiving? So again, that mantra is, I hear divine guidance easily and effortlessly. So waking up and remembering who we are. So we have access, let's call it our DNA. Our DNA, and I shared with you guys my videos on light language, our DNA has access to, well, let's call it a holographic slice of everything, right? Within our DNA has all of, we'll stick with the ancestral, like our ancestral records. Obviously, if you get your DNA, you know that you were, Native American, Irish, I'm using mine as an example, German, Dutch, ancestry, right? And I could go on and on because I am everything. So my point is, though, that from my perspective, our DNA is coming online, waking up, expanding, and in that is a remembrance of, we could say past lives, we could say lifetimes. Let's say you don't even believe in past lives. We could say if everything is happening now, right? It's a circle. Then there are many realities that we are experiencing simultaneously, past, present, and future, because time does not exist. So wouldn't that be in our DNA? So I'm throwing some really crazy things out there at you, but I want to share this because that's, from my perspective, what's happening. So whale represents that. And I want to go a little bit deeper into this right now and just share with you that this is beautiful, this website. Whale evolved spindle cells in her brain as long as 15 million years before us. These cells relate to self-awareness, right? We're waking up, compassion, empathy, and linguistic expression, speaking our truth, finding our voice, right? As a warm-blooded animal living in cold oceans, whale relies on a thick layer of blubber as insulation. Boundaries. Legends say that whale spirit animal carries the history of the world. Our DNA also does. Whale is known to have a substance in the retinas of her eye. So here I'm going, you guys, this is flow style. Of her eye, called biomagnetite, which I'm totally going to have to look up into more of this. But it's interesting because we're talking about the eye, right? Third eye intuition. And which causes sensitivity to the electromagnetic field of the earth. She reads the electromagnetic field like a map, and this helps her migrate across the oceans. Whale speaks the ability to find your own way through the abyss of the pull of your soul's compass. Ah, how pretty is that? It talks about the map is coming through a different channel. Our ears, our eyes, our chakras, right? Our feelings, our bones. Just doesn't feel right. I don't feel it. I feel it in my bones, right? Bone, cartilage. Guys, there's stuff going on in our bones right now too, in our cartilage. A lot of cartilage in the ears. So, of course, I'm seeing all of this tie together in a synchronistic bubble. Whale speaks of the ability to find your way. Oh, I talked about that, the soul's compass. And it talks about maybe not being able to explain it, but it's there. So it's that inner knowing, trusting your inner compass and recognizing that it is a higher guidance system, if you want to call it your higher self. True practitioners of the law of attraction don't have to think of where to go. They are mysteriously drawn. It talks about being in the flow, ironically, and talks about a whale is where they need to be when they need to be there. So this is synchronicity. If we can listen for guidance and get out of all this, set our boundaries, speak our inner truth, and not have the reverse of that, then it allows us to be in the right place at the right time. It allows us to draw in the law of attraction. If we're in a bunch of noise and we're just feeding into this craziness and we're spinning our wheels, we're attracting more of that because it's a vortex, right? That's a whole other video. It talks about whales emit sounds. It talks about pointing the sound. So this, in reference to me, we have to point ourselves in the right direction. And so again, it's following our inner compass. And then the sound travels through the water until it hits a solid object and bounces back. Again, reference to the law of attraction. We're putting it out and we're getting it back. And this is so much more physics and all of that, which is another video. Or a video that might be better to watch through Nassim Haramein. And I apologize if I'm not saying his name right, the physicist. The toothed whales then receive the sound in their lower jaw bones and inner ear. Ironically, this is what the card that I pulled in relationship to this. Also, the armadillo has to do with bones and cartilage. You see what's going on here. Guys, this is a message. This is what's happening in our bodies. This is part of the ascension process, and this is part of the reason a lot of people are having sensitivity in their jaws, ears, sinuses right now. And it talks about how quickly the sound returns and at what pitch tells the whales what's in front of them. You guys, that's very symbolic too. The higher vibration we get into, the quicker we manifest. So if you're closer to an object, it's going to come back to you a lot faster. So the more you're in resonance, right, resoundance with something, the faster it's going to come to you. So be aware of what you're pulling into your reality with your sonar, right? What are you looking for? Also, what is your intention? Heart. It talks about putting your ideas out in the world to see how they are received, organizing and analyzing before action. Okay, guys, I didn't make, this is all stuff. I just pulled these cards and then started doing my research, and whatever came to mind came to mind. Synchronicity is how I did this. It's so cool. I love this. So much fun. So it says, will help you make sound decisions. Be sure to wait for the response before reacting. So again, action before. So we heard action speaks louder than words, but in reality, yeah, action does speak louder than words. So be careful what you're taking action on. Be aware of what you're taking action on. Where is this action coming from? And it talks about sound travels efficiently through water. So again, we have a lot of references to water in general. So animals who appear to be traveling solo, this was important, often coordinate their movements with other whales over thousands of miles of open ocean. And they go beyond chirps and clicks to songs. So again, I had references to squirrels because they speak in chirps and clicks. But in general, I see this as a whole message for the collective, because what we're putting out in our sonar energy is all this loud noise is bouncing off of each other, right? It's a sonar wave. And if we're here, you guys, I make a lot of reference to heart math. I encourage you to look at that website, and you're sending out this energy from your heart. That too is contagious, okay? It's felt. And so we're waking up. I made reference to one of the videos. Some people's third eyes are coming online before their hearts are open. And so that's kind of where a lot of this is coming in. People are waking up, but they're not really in their hearts. And so they're having this disclosure. All these truths are coming to light, and they're freaking out because they're not here. So we've all gone through those moments, and we may be going through them now. And so we're being invited through just this information in general. Listen to your heart. Really hear. Dig out what's going on. Don't just assume and take everything at face value, right? Analyze before you react. We're getting help. The planets are aligning. You know, Mercury is in Libra to help us find this balance. We're opening up our third eye and our ears. But let's feel our emotions in our sacral chakra and bring them into our heart so that we can express from that space, see the truth of who we are, hear the truth of our inner guidance system of who we really are, and express that to the field around us. So think of the air around you as water. Pretend you're a whale, and you're sending out this energy, and it's going through the ethers, and it's bouncing off, being absorbed, and moving around. We are all in this together. It's all connected. And the more we can kind of be in that higher vibration, then that's the field that we're playing in, right? It's our ocean. So let's share this space with love and gratitude. And I think that's it for now. I could go into more Akashic records, but the last but not least, the mantra for Virgo was, I analyze my feelings with love. I come from, my thoughts come from a place of love. If they're not coming from a place of love, it's okay. Recognize they're not coming from a place of love and dig out, where are they coming from? Are they coming from fear? Get to the root of the problem, the emotion, integrate it so that you can express more of who you truly are. Thank you so much for tuning in today. In love and light, namaste.